Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Jennifer. Hey, Patrick. Grace. Elena. Ellen. I see Shivani. Justin. Kateri, I believe. Wade. And friends. We have Sarah coming in. Nicole. Jasmine. Christy. Joan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lots of familiar faces and lots of new faces. This is very exciting. Welcome everybody to our second Mindful Poetry Gathering of National Poetry Month 2024. This mindful poetry, for anyone who's new or wants a refresher, we gather every week in April around poems curated by Hale Liza Ghaffori, for this year's publication, and we will be reading a poem. We'll have an opening meditation. We'll hear the poem read, have a brief discussion, and then time to write and time to share. And the poems that we generate this month, we publish each year in a book of mindful poetry moments. So I'm super excited for today's poem. Today we're going to be reading Small Kindnesses by Danusha Laméris. And we are joined by wonderful facilitators, Trina Basu and Eddie Gonzalez. And I'd like to kick it off. We're going to start with our meditation. And so I wanted to introduce Trina to everybody. Trina is a violinist, improviser, composer, and teacher based in New York City, raised in Florida. Trina's music brings together her early influences of Western classical music, American folk music, and Indian classical raga into dialogue with jazz and improvisation. And her creative practice is grounded in the belief that music is a healing force. And I think myself and many of us would definitely agree. So super, super excited to welcome Trina, and I'll let you take it away with our opening meditation.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Bryce. And it's just wonderful to be here with all of you today and part of this mindful poetry reading session curated by my dear friend Hale. And I'm grateful to her for inviting me to be part of this and to the well for doing this. I hope everyone's doing well and feeling okay today. For this opening meditation, I wanted to share a guided meditation that my 10-year-old son and I wrote together during this past winter solstice. And I'll also play some music on my violin. So my son and I wrote this together, and we reflected, and this was on the winter solstice, and we reflected on the shortest and darkest day of the year, but with the promise of longer days ahead, more sunlight each and every day to follow. For me, the anticipation of spring always gives a sense of hopefulness, and now here we are basking in the beauty of spring in its full glory here in New York. So this activity with me and my son reminded us of how interconnected we are to the web of life and to the cycles in nature, and how our oneness with the universe is, in fact, such an integral part of what unifies all of us together. And then yesterday, we witnessed the solar eclipse, and that further reminded us of our deep connection to nature. So in this guided meditation together, we'll breathe, we'll calm our minds, we'll sit in silence, still our bodies, and be present together in this virtual space. So I want everybody to get comfortable, and I'm going to turn on just a sound. It's a drone sound. Just let me know if it's too loud. Perfect. Great. So let's all close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths together. Imagine you are a tree in a forest. The last golden rays of sun are gently hitting upon your branches. You feel the warmth and joy of the light. As the sunlight begins to dim, a cool breeze kicks in. Your branches slightly sway, making whispering sounds, giving us reminders of our day. Now it is night, and darkness has fallen. It's almost quiet, other than nocturnal life dancing through the deep night. We sit still and we listen, holding the vision of light with reflection and gratitude for the wondrous mysteries of our existence. As we close this meditation, let's take 3 deep breaths together, and then we can open our eyes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for bringing all of your talents into this room. It was really
Thank you
special.
so much. Thank you.
I'm very excited to introduce our poetry facilitator today, now that we are feeling very grounded like a tree. I'm super excited to introduce to you Eddie Gonzalez. He works at the intersections of creative expression and spiritual care, as well as digital media and community engagement. He has a background in journalism, creative writing. He is also a chaplain, and he is one of Mindful Poetry Moment's founding partners. He works with the On Being Project, and Mindful Poetry started back in 2019. So we're super, super excited to welcome Eddie back, and I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Bryce. First off, just thank you, Trina. That was amazing. That was incredibly beautiful, and I love seeing all the love that's being lifted up here in the chat for you and for your offering. Thank you to the Stacy, Bryce, Julia for welcoming me. It's so nice to be back. It's been a while since I was part of one of these gatherings, and I loved being part of these when I was here every single week for as long as we did them, especially during COVID. So it feels like just coming back to a very special place. I'm glad to be here. And to all of you for showing up, excited to see what we create today. Let's look at the poem. So this is a poem called Small Kindnesses by Danusha Laméris. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes. A leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. So this sunlight in a poem, exactly. Let's see in the chat. This poem does a few really interesting things that I wanted to just point out at the very beginning. We begin with, I've been thinking about, and then immediately, and with I've been thinking about, we're immediately grounded in the first person. But then she quickly moves into a sort of list poem of small kindnesses with little asides and observations similar to the, things, how bless you is a relic of the history of the bubonic plague. And we shift to lovely effect from the first person to the second person. And we get this series of you and we and us. And this like list poem, right? It's also it's a person, the speaker of this poem, who's also been reflecting on the way of the world and what makes it so that noticing small kindnesses like this, how they act as a kind of balm. Um, when I was reading this poem in preparation for today, I immediately began to reflect on our tenderness, just by the nature of being alive as humans and mortal, but also the particularities of the tenderness of this moment that we're living in and the impacts of that on our emotional, our physical, our spiritual beings when confronted by things like violent conflict, by continued systemic inequities. And we're in an election year and once again subjected to dehumanizing rhetoric and public discourse and the reminder of our human scale in the news, our smallness, our mortality when it comes to these large natural forces. We talked about eclipses, the climate, the shifting of seasons. Here in New York, we had an earthquake, which was also so small of a reminder of our smallness when compared to the news of earthquakes in Taiwan. Illness, age, these huge things. And I found myself asking, when I saw this poem, where do I even begin to find my own way to address all of this that I'm moving through? How do I become an agent of healing and repair in a world that has so much division and damage and separation? And as the poet says of contemporary life, we have so little of each other now. We're so far from tribe and fire. This place of hearths, this place of like gathering places, especially when my actions, it feels like it can have such a small and limited impact on what's happening. Or to put it bluntly, we've even passed the point of being able to do something with some of these things. And so what do we do when something can't be saved or fixed? So I thought of this poem as something really wise, in part because I've been wondering, in the midst of that, what moves the needle of our inner life towards um, like towards despair, and what leads the needle of our inner life towards hope, and not hope that's merely like, oh, everything's going to be okay, but more like I see how things can be different, and I see how I might be able to step in and help make that vision a reality. And I also thought about the news. There's this amazing quote I remember by like the poet William Carlos Williams. It's difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die every day for lack of what is found there. And like what a gift poetry is in this moment of and I also thought about news in the ways that journalism, right? It can feed sometimes on our fear and on our despair, which unwittingly generates this sort of like unhelpful response of wanting. I know for me, sometimes I'm like, I just want to shut down. I want to go to sleep. I want to distract myself. It doesn't actually move me towards meaningful action. And the wisdom of this poem is amazing because it leans into a list that focuses on the power of these small fleeting moments. Quotes of things that people said, uh, recognition of things that people did, and the spirit also of mutual exchange, right? That there's the joy of giving and there's also the joy of receiving, and this interconnectedness that we find ourselves part of with one another. So much of my thinking recently has also been about our interconnected with the natural world. And that shift to a first person. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, um, don't die, we are saying. That first person just merges into the you, it merges into the we. Um, and so I thought I would lift up a few things that I see that's really wise here too, which is from referencing some of the stuff that I've heard in on being conversations. One of them is from Ross Gay, a poet who has started this practice. He wrote a book based on a practice of finding delight in everyday life and nurturing this like what might be called a radar for joy and for delight and for beauty. Um, and I'm thought too of like Ai-jen Poo, who works a lot with caregivers throughout the United States. I I had this amazing chance to have to be next to her after this incredibly sad and disheartening presentation on artificial intelligence. And I looked at her and I was just like, what do we do with this? She says, well, I'll tell you this. I'm around caregivers all the time. So as bleak as this feels, I also know the small things that caregivers are doing on a day-to-day basis and have a lot of hope actually in that part of our humanity being part of this whole story that's being told of what our relationship with technology, our relationship with one another, which reminded me too of then something that Adrienne Marie Brown had talked about where she talks about fractals. And she says, you know, sometimes the very big things are seen in the very small. And so the idea that the small kindnesses can be an indication to us of much larger kindnesses is something that I just was blown away with in this poem. Um, yeah, and a friend of mine was telling me a story today that they had had some really intense conflict with a neighbor, and that the way they had started moving towards meaningful reconciliation was by helping each other bringing in the trash, bringing the trash cans in from the curb. That had actually started to stitch a relationship that had seen a lot of rupture. Now, all of this type of stuff, I mean, I'm mentioning this, and I feel like the same thing with this poem. Sometimes it can be really easy to be a little dismissive about it, or to say, oh, that kind of thinking might be a little naive, or is there really a place for that? And I feel like another thing I want to point out in this poem is that she says sometimes in this poem, and I love it because she's not pretending that the world is an ongoing encounter with small kindnesses. Sometimes implies that, you know, when you spill your lemons from your grocery bag, someone else might not pick them up, or you might look and feel a bit of shame or guilt when you see that example. I drive a red pickup truck, but I didn't let that person pass on the road when I was on the road yesterday, right? Um, in which case, I feel like the poem invites us to imagine what else we might have done and to set some intentions and kind of like athletes, right? Visualize what might my day be like if I walked in the world a certain way. Fleeting temples. I also just really love how she points towards that. And there are some real spiritual or religious language in this poem, right? It reminds me of the word graciousness, a word that has within it the word grace. Moments of simplicity, of elegance, of goodwill, even of forgiveness, of thanksgiving in the way that you might say grace before a meal, and even religiously of salvation. Um, Fleeting temples, these shining glimpses of light in the dark. Um, So, my prompt for you today. I love that this is a list poem, and I thought of what might be possible if we generated together lists of fleeting temples that we're seeing in our lives. Um, so, I want us to turn on our collective radar for kindness and for joy and delight. Maybe scan back over the last week, the last month, maybe the past few months. What fleeting temples have you seen? What small kindnesses have you seen? What has been beautiful? What has helped you to resist despair? What has moved you or helped you see a way of kindness, of repair, of care, of tending? And I also like in this poem, she paints pictures with words. You hear what people have said, you see what is happening. So connect to the physical. You know, what did these things look like? What did they smell like, taste like, sound like, feel like? And if you would like an extra level of challenge, try to write in the second person.
That's super, super great. All right, everybody. So we will take the next 10 minutes to write about that prompt, and then we'll come back and have time to share. So we'll be back in 10. If you could wrap up your last couple of lines, and we'll come back together and we can share our works. You can use the raise hand feature under reactions at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Or if you raise your hand on camera or type in the chat, we'll see that too. And I will pass it over to Eddie to start choosing people who'd like to share.
Yeah, sounds great. So I believe this just puts things in order. So I will start with Wade.
Hey, good to see everybody. Let's see. That moment when the fat in the pan effervesces, I forget. I remember that moment when a child gives you their trust. I feel a duty to past and future. That moment when the unwell find peaceful rest. I feel relief and gratitude that forever is just an idea. That moment when I notice that the tree has budded and the peonies broken through winter's crust, and I am surprised that life thrives in countless conditions. And sometimes I remember that moment I forget.
Thank you, Wade. Yeah, that ending. I also love the multi-generations in here, the movement of something not just being an idea, the flowers. Appreciate you. Christy.
Hi. Okay, so I titled this, You Move Me Towards Hope. You are saying yes so clearly these days. Are you happy? Yes, I happy. Are you having fun? Yes, I fun. Are you dancing? Yes, I dance. As you move your body in an awkward, choppy, but rhythmic wave. I look at you and I tell you, you're so cute. And you tilt your blonde head to the side and cup your soft strawberry cheek in your tiny hand, and with a silly smirk say, "Hi, so toot." I look at my other boys with their bedhead heads and missing teeth and pants eternally inching above their ankles. And I feel my insides wince for all the moments like this that cannot be captured, all the heart exploding moments like this. I swore I'd never forget. And yet I did somehow forget. And I curse this tired brain for its limitations, its sponge-like tendencies to hold all the pain, so that some of the good has no option but to be wrung out. So I breathe, I pray, and I trust. There will be more moments of heaven on earth.
Wow, Christy, thank you. It's amazing how also this practice can lead towards a sort of like, why am I not doing this more? Why am I not noticing more? Wanting to hold on to these things. And I just love your sort of softness in the midst of that too. And the joy. Yes, I fun. Thank you. Shivani?
Yeah, I wrote one called This I Wish for You, My Friend. I want to give my friends so many things. Cake toppers without birthdays to show up when they need it. An endless supply of bright colored pens and black ink for official documents that never smudge, never dry, never ball or point fingers at them. For no one to ever ask them for a printout, for printers to be banished and all of us to remember their words like sunsets. I want them to have enough that they want less. For dates that meet them where they are and challenge their definition of love and lust and intimacy and being heard, for the smallest parts of them to be seen. For doors to never lie about the pull or push direction, for them to open automatically. For them to find the ripest avocados for their toast in the morning, never a fruit that rots in their pantry. For gas bills to be low and energy conservation not an individual's job. for forgiveness to exist and for them to part with it freely. For more letters in the mail than misleading credit card offers, I wish for them to be never advertised to again. I wish for them to listen to the silence and tune into their personal radio frequency. For their organs to be more heart than sleep, functioning so perfect it would be a crime not to donate them at the end. I wish for them to believe in fate, but not so much they stop trying. To wish on red mail vans and 1111s and eyelashes and the trails of already dying stars. To be able to lead and follow, but most of all, to walk beside. Most of all, on days that they forget themselves, I want someone to write a poem for them.
Wow. I love the list of wishes for them. Everything from birthdays to pens to avocados to the things of dates with people who challenge their definitions of these things. And this walking beside, beautiful, beautiful. Elena.
Hi there. Thank you. That was beautiful, Shivani. Okay, I don't have a title yet, but here goes. Grace stronger than despair, a fountain of tears bears silent witness to hope. That creature in a dark corner of Pandora's box, almost overlooked by its tiny size. Hope seen in everyday life, an extended hand to help the fragile stand, an encouraging gaze at a daunting open mic, another adjusts the microphone. The way grief moves a stranger to give a reassuring touch. Hope is invisible, but gives life to many, especially in times of conflict. The poet sees hope in a beckoning sky, in the soft wooing of spring. Hope is in everything. Daughters of Pandora care for it gently. Thank you.
Thank you. What was it? The small creature in the beckoning sky, and the reassurance, that daunting open mic. I felt that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick?
This has been really wonderful so far. This one's untitled. You think you sometimes stare at the ground when you walk, pretending balance, as if to not trip over stones and grass, inviting us along our way. To avert my eyes from the tattered man on the left, and to close my ears to the ramble, sometimes the throat clearing of divinity. You think, making it about you, you let me walk around you on the sidewalk. But then you stop and listen to a thought, to the woman selling Snickers all day on the plastic table, to the 3 buskers on the corner of all blocks, to the man with the sweet smelling breath who has the thought, to the thought all across the street. You think sometimes, you give me a nod, as if affirming our own exchange across each other, to confirm me to you and you to I. I think I can walk across it. I think across it all we crossed.
Thank you, Patrick. I had the sense of these like thresholds while walking, and all of the people that we pass that are giving us these insights. The woman selling Snickers, the 3 buskers, the man with the sweet smelling breath. To Terry.
Hello. Mine is also untitled, as mine often are, always untitled. You hold many temples inside your body. A temple for hope, a temple for fear, a temple for hate, a temple for love. Only you know how many temples there are to be found, and only you know which ones have been tended to and honored. Which temple has cracks in its foundation, which is begging to fall, smells of mold and rot. Which temple is thriving with a garden in bloom, which has an echo to its halls.
Wow. Deep into the inner life, the temples there, and all their states of repair or disrepair. Amazing. Thank you. Jennifer.
This is kind of inflammation right now, but you will always offer to take the dog out, even when she doesn't need to go, but just wants to sunbathe. Like Ferdinand, she merely wants to sniff the clover, although we have no cork trees and couldn't be farther from Spain. You will always offer both versions of the undercover, knowing that most want to buy, but not all can afford the $10. You always help the smallest library patrons reach their favorite picture books. They have memorized the spot on the shelf. They simply need a little more reach. You can always make Ann Arbor as exciting as New York in your novel. It's the fact that you've lived here that makes your voice bloom in any case. We can all want to read your novel once it's finished. As a story of love and redemption on parole is a hope we must all want to live for. You can always visit my house and I will always make safe food for you. We can all stretch on the early spring grass, arms spread wide to bring in the eclipsed sun, marvel at the finches going wild with warble. You can send out the photos of your dawn forays on your paddleboard, presents of the day's presence. We can always recall sunsets together in our sunset of years, our knees gracefully sagging towards the sand. We can always take a bucket and someone's small hand and trowel the holes to plant the seeds that will germinate for everyone.
Wow, amazing. I'm struck in this in yours about like this even just the gift of our voice, the gift of our story, and the gift of our being present alongside others for moments of beauty and awe, watching birds, watching an eclipse, along these other kindnesses. Thank you. Wow. Jasmine, I see your hand raised.
This one I'm calling Birds and Children. At the community garden, my green dandelion filled heaven. A golden cat rubs against my ankle. My neighbor, no older than 10, names him Buttercup, and suddenly he is baptized into our little community. Late these days, my teachers are children and birds. The latter awakes me before sunrise, singing nature's trumpet, joyous and yearning, saying again and again, I have returned, I am alive, celebrate me. Just like I do on Tuesday afternoons in my small art class, relearning how colors work, red, yellow, and blue, finding the rainbow in those 3 acrylic blobs. At home, I magnetize the day's drawing to the fridge, a red apple, and feel my heart cry out, I have returned, I am alive, celebrate me.
Thank you, Jasmine. I love the community garden, the cat, the birds, the children, nature's trumpet. I have returned. I'm alive. Celebrate me. Thank you. Stacy.
Thanks, Eddie. This is entitled When the Moon Temples the Sun. You cannot figure out where to look. The moon is about to eclipse the sun and your special glasses are slipping off of your actual glasses. And over there, Julia is making a temple of her body over Lizzie. So Lizzie can see if the cat she made from punching tiny holes in paper is projecting crescents of light as promised. And over there, Sonia and Daniel are creating a soundscape to accompany this celestial bravado with gongs and chimes and didgeridoo and love and care. You give thanks to the two Patricks who brought the electricity to boost the heavenly sounds of the harmonics of their kindness. You watch the clock. You remember Dean Regas, our very own astronomer, ours, not yours, go Ohio, said to take your glasses off when the moon centers and the annular ring of fire is left to its flickering delight. You hope that the planets and stars understand the math of time. You exhale because, wow, your heart pounds. This is a thing, a real energetic, strange, up is down and day is night, and the geese are freaked out too. You look at everyone else with loved ones and new friends, all equally gobsmacked by nature's complexity and verve. You love each and every one who is staring at the sky, eclipse or not, looking for a sign that the world is still amazing.
The world is still amazing. I love the spectacle of the eclipse itself, but also of the people around the eclipse and folks doing things for one another for views and to make it a pleasant experience. Y'all, this was amazing just to hear. I think the hope was to sort of like what happens if we do a collective list. And this has been beautiful to be among all of these details of what has been giving beauty, hope, joy. I think we might have time for one more if we wanted to, but I think it's also fine if we want to move towards our closing meditation and one last reading.
All righty.
All right.
Eddie or Trina, did you want to share a poem?
I'm
That's
good.
all right
Thank
if
you.
not.
Yeah.
No pressure. Um, thank you, thank you. I want to give all my snaps to Eddie and also Trina. Thank you so much for holding our space today. We're so excited. Our next gathering will be at the same time next week with a brand new poem and new facilitators. We'll have Hale Liza Gafori, our curator, back with singer and songwriter Morley to lead our meditation with a poem by Robert Hayden. A couple other housekeeping. I just wanted to note we've recorded this session and we post these to YouTube every week. That way people who wanted to join but couldn't make it can also see all of this gorgeous beauty. If there are any moments or if you would like to for me to edit your poem out of the recording, just let me know before you hop off. You can send me in the chat or send me an email in a couple hours. So to close us out, I would love for Trina to read our inspiration poem again. I will put the poem up on the screen here.
Small Kindnesses by Danusha Laméris. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them, for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now. So far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are a true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. It's cut off there. I can't see anything below that. There we go. And that's it. Perfect.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Trina. I'll follow up with everybody over email in the next couple of hours. We make a blog post every week, and if you'd like me to put your poem up on our page, I would love that. And then I was getting a lot of questions about book submissions. So we'll be in touch with all of you closer to the end of the month with our submission form, and we'd love to see some poems from all of you in the book. Alrighty, I think that is all for us today. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We hope this was as nourishing for you as it was for us. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.